We're basically just going to talk about how they are similar and how they are different, okay? So, a couple key questions that we need to kind of answer. The first one is, when we use a debit card, what happens? So, when we use a debit, all right? We need to know the difference here. So when I use a debit card, if I go to a store, convenience store, grocery store, wherever, Walmart, and I swipe my debit card, what is taking place? What is happening?
Money's coming out.
That money is coming from where? Good. So when we use a debit card, the first thing we're going to put down is money is withdrawn. Straight from a checking account. Now guys, is it possible to have a debit card linked to more than one checking account? Yes. Okay, so it's money, the money is withdrawn straight from a checking account. I don't have to worry about it as long as I've got money in my checking account, right? Now, also using a debit card, I'm basically moving money electronically, right? I'm not taking money out of anything other than my checking account. So by also using a debit card, it creates an accurate account balance. And I'll explain to you what I mean by that. If I've got $500 or $600 in a checking account and I go spend $145 of it, the second I swap that card, does my bank know about it? Yes. So there's very accurate records with that. Okay? Very, very accurate records with that. Okay? So that's basically what's happening with the debit card. Emphasis here, the debit card is connected to a checking account. Okay? Debit cards have to be linked to a checking account. There is no buy now, pay later with a debit card. You are paying right then. Okay? Simple enough thus far. All right, the next little subtitle. Put down when we use a credit card. When we use a credit card. Now, when I use a credit card, where is the money coming from?
The business that you're
It's not necessarily a bank, no.
The business that you're
It could be, well, I take that back, Sammy. You're right. If I have a credit card through a bank, then yes, it would be. But if I have a credit card through like Visa, Discovery, what's another one? American Express, MasterCards. Those companies handle that, right? So basically when we use a credit card, it is a loan from a credit company. So what they have done is they have paid my bill for me with the idea that I will pay them back plus what? Interest. Okay? And we talked yesterday about being a deadbeat when it came to a credit card. You know, pay it off as quickly as possible. That way you don't have to pay credit. Or, excuse me, interest. Okay? So this is basically a loan of money. Alright? So, there is interest involved here. Okay? So interest rates apply. And guys, this is not anything you probably already didn't know. You just probably never wrote it and put it in writing. Okay? So, the next thing we kind of need to talk about is we're going to compare them. Okay? So what is the difference between a debit and a credit. And very simple, we've already answered this kind of once. When it comes to interest rates, does a debit card have interest? No. Does a credit card have interest? Yes. So I'm simply going to put a no here and a yes here. And outside of it, I'm going to write the word interest. You have to pay interest on a credit card. You do not have to pay interest on a debit card. Okay? Now, what is something I can do with a credit card that I cannot do with a debit card? What can I build with my credit card that I cannot build with my debit card?
Credit score.
A credit score. All right. So, credit score over here. That helps me build it. This one does not. Okay? So those are the two biggest differences. Debit has no interest when a credit card does, but a credit card will help you build your credit score where a debit card will not. Well, and we've already talked about how important a credit score is. The higher your credit score, the more ability you have to borrow more money in hopes of buying like a home, a car, things of that nature. Okay? So, do these things act exactly the same way? From the point of view of just taking it in somewhere and swiping it, yes, right? But as far as what they do, they work completely different. Does everybody understand that? Okay. All right. Next little topic here. I got to pull it over so you can see it, and you're just going to have to listen to me talk. Okay? Actually, let's do this first. All right, so it says, what young people need to know about credit. I told you, I remember those two questions I made you answer a second ago? Yeah. And I said, is it smart for young people to have credit cards? And most of you said no, but it was okay if adults and maybe college kids had it, right? So we're going to kind of talk about this. So basically, guys, it says, do you consider yourself a trustworthy individual? Now, you're basing this on yourself. You're not basing this on anybody else. And what I mean by being a trustworthy individual is the fact that, are you responsible with things? If your parents let you go to the movies and gives you $20 and says, bring me my change back, regardless of what you spend, do you give them the $5 or $6 back that you don't, right? Kind of what I'm getting at. So, it may be true that your family and friends would be willing to vouch for you, okay? But the reality is that the rest of the world has no idea of your level of trustworthiness. And guys, that's true. You got to understand this. When you go apply in a credit application to apply for a credit card or apply for a loan or apply for that, your friends and family are going to know you better than anybody else. Does that make sense? So, obviously they would vouch for you. But, for example, could I vouch for you when it came to money? We spent the last, 10 weeks together? I don't know how you guys spend money. Do y'all know how I spend money? No, even though we're around one another quite a bit, you really don't know a lot about them, right? So it's the people that's close-knit. So when it comes to your trustworthiness, banks, car dealers, mobile phone companies, and other businesses must rely on a credit score, okay? So for these reasons, understanding credit and building it up is one of the most important ways of setting up your future financial success. Guys, I can't tell you that enough. Building your credit in a positive manner is probably the most important thing you will do from a financial standpoint in your life. Okay? You're going to want that credit score to be high because you just simply never know when you may need to borrow money or do things of that nature. All right? So, we're going to basically go through a quick introduction to credit. So, for young people, good credit can be the golden key to unlocking a promising future. Can you guys read that? Or is it just me? Can I make that? Y'all can read it? Okay. By simply having credit is just one point on a larger financial basic spectrum that in reality remains elusive to most. So guys, starting as young as you possibly can, building your credit is something that we need to do. Okay? So exactly what is credit and why should you care about it? And then it goes into the principal and the interest. We talked about this already. So do I need to spend any more time on it? Because principal is the amount you borrow, the interest is the amount you pay after you borrowed it. Okay? So, why is credit useful? Now, here's where I want you to get back on your notes. Underneath what we just wrote, debit and credit, put down the word credit, and then we're going to add some things underneath it. Okay? Just simply credit. Okay? And then we're going to put down why it's useful. And I'll show you how I'm writing mine out. So I just put credit and why it's useful, okay? And then I'm just going to label or list why we feel like it's useful, okay? So, why is credit useful? The first one it has in your notes, what does it say beside the number 1 right there? That credit is what? Convenient. Y'all see where I'm at? Can you guys not read that? I got you. So we're going to fill in why it has a convenience to it. If you'll notice below it, it says credit gives people greater purchasing power. In fact, most daily transactions use credit, with 40% of people favoring credit over cash or debit. Now, why do you think they do that? Most credit card companies offer some type of incentive for you to use their card. You guys see all the time, like the Capital One card on television, where you get 3% back on gas, 5% back on groceries, 3% whatever. They're offering you an incentive to purchase things with their card. Now, on the flip side of that, if you're purchasing things with their card, do you owe them money? Yeah. So it's a win-win for them. Yeah, we'll give you just a little bit back if it's an incentive enough to make you want to use our card. You guys remember what an incentive is, correct? Okay, so it is convenient, and beside the convenience, I would simply put that it gives greater purchasing power. Greater purchasing power. Most credit cards have some type of limitation on them. The better your credit score, the more you can put on those credit cards. Does that make sense? Now, the worse my credit score is, the less I can put on them. So basically, guys, when you all get a credit card, your first one's probably going to have some type of limitation of, I don't know, $2,000 on it. Okay? So having a credit card that I can put $2,000 on is a lot easier than me carrying $2,000 in cash. Does that make sense? But at the end of the day, if I don't pay that off in a timely manner, is it going to cost me more than $2,000 to pay it off? Right. So you got to kind of weigh that. So the convenience of it gives me more purchasing power. This little chart just kind of shows you, I know those colors kind of blend in, but the blue is credit, the purple is debit, and the yellow is cash or other. The majority of people, if you'll notice, will use some type of card over cash. Because in every one of these, the only one that cash reigns supreme is in fast food restaurants and coffee shops. Everywhere else, restaurants, supermarkets, gas stations, discount stores, department stores, credit or debit takes over. Okay, so obviously our world of plastic is a real deal. Okay. Number 2, why credit is useful. Says that it is for future planning. Okay? Future planning. Now basically it says it provides opportunities such as getting a mortgage or buying a car. If I am smart with my credit card and I'm a smart, responsible individual and I pay off my debt when I use my credit card, The only thing that it's doing is building my credit score. So in the future, what am I going to be able to do? Yeah, I can apply and get approved for long-term loans, such as mortgages and buying a car. Okay? So put down future planning. Put down you have opportunities. To get long-term loans. Now again, I've got to be responsible. I've got to keep that up. Okay? The third useful hint for credit is it offers benefits, and we just kind of talked about those. So number 3, benefits. You get rewards for using their cards. 2% back on this, 3% back on that, whatever it may be. You get money back compared to what you're using it. So rewards for using card. And then probably the reason that the majority of you guys will get your first credit card is this last one. In case there is ever an emergency. You guys, majority of you all will go off to college one day. You know, probably away from Carroll County where you'll be away from your families, right? Most families would give you some type of card that if, say, you're driving and you blow a tire out, or if you something happens to your car, or you know, whatever emergency situation may happen, you have the ability to have money. Does that make sense? So it's emergency, just basically having extra financial security. In case you need it, okay? And you know, you can write down an example like hospital, or maybe a car accident, or not accident, a car, you know, something goes wrong with your car.
Breakdown.
Yeah, car breakdowns. Now, you will see those ideas again, so make sure you got them jotted down. And that's basically what it's useful for, okay? I don't think there's any more, okay? Right. So, obviously, guys, the term credit denotes more than just a unit of value. It helps you build a lot of things, okay? So, these right here, we're not going to write all these down because we know all of them, but we are going to write down some of them, okay? So, some of the things need knowing. We already know what a credit score is. Do we need to write it down? Obviously, a credit score is how good your credit is. The higher, the better, right? The lower, the worst. A credit limit. I don't feel like we need to write that one down, but we will talk about it. The credit limit is the total amount of money you can borrow. So whatever credit card you get, it's going to have some type of limitation on it. You guys understand that? The better your credit score, the higher that limitation will be. Does that make sense? If my credit score is great, I may can get a credit card that I can put 10 grand on. If my credit score is not so well, I may can only get a credit card I can put 2 grand on. Okay? We know what an interest rate is. That's what's charged to us once we borrow money from a credit card company. Our balance is the amount owed on an existing line of credit. If you guys remember the little video we watched yesterday with the buckets and the water, you know, if you're just making the minimum payment, what's happening to what you haven't paid off? It's gaining what? Interest that you have to pay later, okay? Now, a credit report, we're going to actually talk a lot about it. I'm going to show you one of those, okay? And then your minimum monthly payment, that's the minimum amount you can pay each month to keep your credit card going. Huh?
Which ones do you write down?
We're going to write down the last 2, okay? So write down credit report. And basically, guys, put down that it's a detailed list of your credit history. It's a detailed list . of your credit history. So one of these days when someone says we're going to have to pull your credit report, that's basically anything you ever bought, purchased, and had to make payments on, okay, to see how much trustworthiness you have within yourself, okay? And then, do we need to necessarily write down minimum monthly payment? Do we need to jot that down? Do y'all figure that out? Like when you get a credit card statement in the mail, in one little box it's going to have your balance. Say you owe a credit card company $500, and then over here to the right of it, it's going to say minimum amount due, and it may be like $25. Y'all got me? So you write a check or you get a money order or things of that nature, and you send the $25 to the credit card company. Well, in essence, I should only my balance should only be $475, right? But when my next billing cycle comes, the next month, it's not going to say $475. It may say like $477.28. Where did that other $2.28 come from? Interest, okay? But that's how it works, all right? So, I think that's pretty easy. So, this one just kind of shows you all the various forms of credit cards and what you can use them for. Now, obviously, guys, you can't take a credit card and swipe it and buy a home. The idea behind this chart is saying the use of a credit card can help you purchase homes, cars, get loans, student loans, or payday loans simply if you're responsible with them. Does that make sense? If I'm responsible with this thing, later in life, I'm going to be able to buy all these things. You guys understand that? And then the last one. What is a credit score? We're going to have to kind of talk about this one. This will take a little bit of time, so bear with me here, okay? And we're going to jot this down. So title, make this its own little title. What is a credit score? Okay, so basically, guys, if we had to put a definition on a credit score, it's actually located right underneath it. It says it's a 3-digit number that determines how financially responsible you are. So I would just jot that down. It's a 3-digit number. That's basically checking your trustworthiness. Okay? So a 3-digit number that determines how responsible you are financially. Now, I gave you an idea the other day. I said anybody with a credit score above 700 is normally really good, very responsible financially, right? So this individual says that their credit score is 690. Would you all, if you were a lender, if you were people that let people borrow money, and you had someone come into your place of business with a credit score of 690, would you allow them to borrow money? Yeah, they're pretty financially trustworthy. Now, would you maybe require some type of collateral? Maybe, but I mean, they do pretty good, you know what I mean? So, that's all right. So, if you'll notice below it, beside the little chart where the 690 is, it says lenders report data on a person's financial behavior to credit bureaus once a month. So basically, here's how this works. Whoever you owe money to, whatever you've purchased, whatever, and basically, I know none of you all have ever done it, but let's say your parents. More than likely, most people have to pay on their home still, have to pay on their car still, have payments, right? So, once a month, those places that have outstanding balances toward people, they send their credit score to a financial company to calculate it. This person paid theirs, this person paid theirs, this one missed this month, this one has missed the last 3 months. And these credit bureaus calculate all that for you. They keep it all in one place. Does that make sense? It says this data affects the interest rate you can get on the above types of loans. Okay, so If I miss a payment, what's going to happen to my interest rate on my next loan? It's going to go up, right? You missed the payment. We're going to make sure you pay us back. So we're going to make you get a higher interest rate. If I've never missed a payment, what's going to happen to my interest rate? It's going to go down. That's the idea, okay? So, basically, how is it calculated? It says bureaus and lenders use several factors to determine your credit worthiness. Guys, there's about 3 or 4 different types of credits you can look at. Most of them fall within 50 points of one another. You guys understand that? So, some of them only go up to 800, some of them go up to 850, some of them go up to 700. It just depends on which one you use. Okay? And this is basically what they look at. So 35% of it is your payment history. Okay, so we're going to jot this down. What is a credit score? So what does it include? Underneath where you put 3-digit number that determines how financially responsible you are, put down includes. Your credit score includes. And we're not going to write down those percentages, but we are going to write down what is used to determine it. Okay, so the first one there, it includes payment history. And like I said, have I always made my payments on time when I was supposed to, right? That's the first one. That's roughly 40% of it. That's quite a big amount of it. Okay? So your payment history. 30% of it says amount owed. So how much do you owe? Total. So amount owed. Are you chipping away at that? Is it going down each month? Okay? The next one over there where it says 15%, it says the length of credit history. So how long have you had these outstanding balances? Okay, so the length of credit history. I hope none of you all have a credit history right now, because if you do, somebody stole your identity. Okay? And then basically it takes into consideration new accounts. If you open up a new account, is that going to affect your score? Well, absolutely. That's more money you have to ship out. Okay? So they take in a bunch of different ideas to get your credit score. So if I'm making all my payments on time, if I'm lowering the amount I owe, if I've had a long history of credit, and if I'm opening up new accounts, that's how they figure out whether or not I have a good credit score. You guys understand that? I'm going to probably ask you to remember 2 or 3 of those. So make sure that's in your head there, okay? And then it gets into this. If you'll notice, 800, excellent, very good. 700, fair, good. 600 is poor. And anything below that, bad. If your credit score is 300 and you have no credit, guess who's going to let you borrow money? Nobody. It's very tough to borrow money. I've been in places before, like selling stuff, that when you check their credit, they'll have a credit. One of the husband may have a credit score of 700, and the wife may be all the way down here, and they simply can't buy it because they won't let them because of their credit score when you combine them. It's not good, even though the husband may have really good credit. Okay. Now, if you'll notice right here, where it says excellent or very good, somewhere between 750 and 800. This is where you expect the lowest possible interest rates and best terms. So we're going to kind of jot it like that. So put down 750 to 800. Okay? That equals lowest interest rates all right? And you get the best terms. Now, what does a term mean? The amount of time you're going to pay for it. So get this, and this is really neat. This is why having a great credit score is a huge deal. Let's say that I go purchase something for $3,000. They run my credit score, and it's like 780. I mean, it's just way up there. The guy's going to look at me and say, well, since you have such a good credit score, the term of this loan was going to be for 3 years, and you were going to get a 3% interest rate on it. So basically, I was going to have to pay that $3,000 with 3%. Y'all with me? He said, but since your credit score is so good, we can offer you this loan interest free, and you don't have to pay any interest. People can do that because they have such a good credit score. Businesses know you will pay them back if your credit score is that high. You got me? So they can offer you very little or no interest whatsoever. Okay? In the next section there where it says good to fair, that's about $650, and we'll go on up to $750 with it. And in that one it says you're eligible for most loans. So you're eligible for most loans. And you're probably going to get good rates. And what that means is good interest. And you're not going to get the zero interest at all, but you may get an interest rate between under 5, under 10. You know what I'm saying? Between 650 and 750. Okay? All right, then our next range is going to be fairly big. Okay? We're going to go from 300 to 600. Now, don't get me wrong here, guys. People that's had really bad credit, is it possible to get your credit up? Yeah, it just takes a long time and you really have to work at it, okay? But 300 to 600 is very poor, okay? So when you get into this general area, it's only going to be secured loans. You're only going to be able to get a secured loan. And with a secured loan, you have to offer what? You have to put collateral against it. You may have to put your car up against it. You may have to put your home up against it. Meaning if you don't pay it back, they're coming to repossess that stuff. So that's why having a bad credit score can do to you. You can take other things away from you. Okay? And then obviously you're going to have high interest rates. So just looking at that chart, it makes sense that you want to keep your credit score really good. Y'all understand that? Now, I'm going to kind of stop right there today with this because, and you guys remind me of this. This is where we're at. Why does credit score matter? Please remember that, okay? Because I know I'll get somewhere else with B-Day, virtual guys. All right? So, does anybody have any questions with the things we've talked about today? Does that make sense? All right, that's all I got for you guys. Now,